Okay, first, I guess, good afternoon. Again, my name is Jorge. It's a pleasure to be with you here. I'm going to be spending with you the next 25 minutes or so. So I'll try to be within time. It's always after lunch, so it's good to be livening up things a little bit, so I'll try to be as lively as possible. During the short time that we spent together, I'll try to give you a bit of an appreciation of the kind of things that we're doing in terms of smart city. And here what's important is the importance of innovation, in the sense, what are the areas that organizations should be exploring in terms of introducing innovation into smart city, and maybe look at the areas, not just the technology itself, but also in the areas that introduce innovation in terms of business models, etc. Obviously, as we move towards smart city, there's many elements that are actually driving this change. Many governments around the world have different initiatives. Here we have famous 2020. But it's primarily associated with the fact that a lot of resources are moving towards cities, and this has created a great density of population with associated problems. Problems could be of security, transportation, pollution, capacity of energy, and many others. So when we introduce the knowledge and the notion of smart city, what we're trying to do is use solutions to actually minimize or alleviate some of these problems and optimize the usage of these resources in a more effective way. Obviously, by putting the right metrics in place, we're able to shift or use the existing resources in a much more effective way. It is important that when we look at things like smart city, there's many elements that need to be addressed. So you need to have a proper methodology, you need to have a proper framework, because smart city is not just about one of those elements, but how actually those elements cooperate together. It's about central government, regional government, it's about safety, etc. It goes even as far as things like, for example, healthcare and other ones. So when we talk about safety, primarily people are concerned with integration with things like, for example, police systems and others. I don't know if many people here have used on a regular basis some of the police systems that are available in UAE. How many people here have a smartphone with them? Are you familiar with the fact that you use traditional mobile apps maybe for RTA and others? But today there's already some of these mobile apps that actually interface into safe and smart city. Some of these mobile apps, for example, today, one of them called Police Eye allows you to, for example, talk or interface directly with the police department in terms of, for example, reporting a crime or actually being eyes on the ground in terms of the police today. So you can see that there's already a lot of innovation in this area. Other elements include about things like efficiency usage of resources. And the last one is about making city as friendly and as livable as possible through organization of events and otherwise. I think in this forefront, obviously, Dubai is in the forefront by introducing things like the happiness index. I don't know if you realize every location you tend to visit on a frequent basis, you'll see a collection of statistics information with the happiness index associated with it. So smart city is sometimes looked at through examples. So there's obviously many cases where this has actually been introduced in a very successful way. Obviously, the larger the city, the more and the biggest challenges. So we have places like, for example, Shanghai. Many people here had a chance to actually visit a location like Shanghai. It's a city that is extremely old. There's a combination of young and old city in a very vibrant way. In a place like Shanghai, there's over 20 million people living each day. So it gives you an idea of the kind of challenges that must take into place. So things like traffic is extremely important. Newer cities obviously have a lot of energy problems, so people are looking at ways of making the cities more green. There's extremely heavy demand on resources of these cities. Let's take a city, for example, like Shenzhen. If we go back about 5-7 years, Shenzhen was a city of about 40,000 people. Today, Shenzhen has got close to 20 million people in a space of about 5 to 6 years. So you can see the amount of pressure that actually gets put on the resources. So smart and safe city introduces the elements required to leverage these resources in a very effective way. And there's many other examples. Places like, for example, Africa. Safety is extremely important because of the operational risk factors associated with that. As we move towards the frameworks of smart city, there has been an ongoing evolution. So there was the initial pilot projects where people were looking at, how do we make a city usable? So you have Frankfurt, Mexico City, where pilots were conducted. But today, as we move towards the right-hand side, it's not just about doing a point project in smart city. It's actually about looking at it as an integrated end-to-end solution and how all these elements come together to offer a complete framework through exchange of use of information in a practical way. So when we talk about developing a complete end-to-end smart city framework, we have to address many elements in the equation. Obviously, we have intelligence at the heart of it, and intelligence really actually only means one thing. We're collecting vast amounts of information, and we're going to be processing this information to actually make useful decisions by identifying potential trends through things like big data, machine learning, and other mechanisms. And obviously, there's three primary axes that are extremely important: the safety and security, the efficiency use of resource by making things more green, and then things by making the city more pleasant and more livable by the elements that make part of that city. And all the systems on the periphery as applications live around those three primary axes and framework of smart city vision. Obviously, in order for this to take place, and you want to have a practical framework, you have to have a concept of platform and ecosystem. So that means you need to create a common platform that enables all these technologies to exchange information together in a highly structured and scalable way. And finally, you need to develop an ecosystem that allows a partnership of many organizations, and I think we have quite a few here over these next 2 days, to cooperate and provide an end-to-end set of solutions in a smart way. So what we need to do that is we create a structured architecture. And the elements of this architecture include things like, for example, an overall infrastructure. This infrastructure primarily is focused on transporting the information that will actually drive the intelligence of the smart city. So we are collecting massive amounts of information, and we need to transport this information in an extremely efficient way, an extremely scalable way. Sometimes we use one network, but in many cases we'll use a combination of two networks to actually achieve this in an efficient way. So we have all this data. We need to be able to store it in a highly scalable way. We need to be able to process this. So we have a whole layer of data infrastructure to actually collect, store, archive, and keep enough history to allow trends to take place. And on the upper layer, we have an application, and this is where the ecosystem of partners come to plug in through the data bus to actually drive value out of this data that has been collected. On the right-hand side, we have several layers of security because of the importance of the critical infrastructure that we're deploying. So, on the bottom side, the data is being collected. But how do we interface or collect this data in an efficient way? We are going to introduce many IoT devices, and these devices have new ways to capture and store data. So we need to interface to them through a series of IoT device terminals. We can call it support for new technology, things like RFID, proximity readers, etc. On the transmission layer, we need to be able to interface high-capacity networks with IoT networks in an efficient way and being able to translate the protocols. Once the data gets stored in the database, we need to be able to process it using cloud technology in an efficient way. Newer technologies that have come to introduce here that are extremely important include the effective usage of PKI technology for protecting things like the Internet of Things and more innovative ways of blockchain technology. Although blockchain today is the buzzword of the day, if you look at it from a security perspective, blockchain is actually an implementation of PKI, just a more modern version of that implementation. So when you create this within the system, you introduce more trust, actually a distributed trust within that environment. And on the upper layer, you have the applications running. At each element of the layer, you need to address the potential vulnerabilities and risks. So you'll have to address things like terminal security, network in movement or data in transmission, and then finally cloud security with application security intermixed in between. One of the important elements of innovation in smart and safe city is the fact that we generate lots of data. How are we going to get the value out of this data? By doing big data analysis and by doing things like machine learning and artificial intelligence, which are innovations or evolutions of this big data concept. Today, when we talk about big data, we use three primarily elements, which we call Hadoop, Spark, and Storm. Technologies like Hadoop and Spark allows us to process data in static format, but analyze the trends of this data. Storm actually allows us to process the data while it flows. Now, this is extremely important in specific applications, like, for example, police, where you need to respond to alerts in real time rather than the day after or the week after. So this allows you to create a whole new generation of smart and safe city applications. Big data also allows us to introduce value. And obviously, as governments are trying to monetize or trying to leverage the value of this data, concepts like data monetization become extremely important. So the data that the governments are capturing through those various sensors will bring them a new source or generation of revenues. Other important elements that are part of Safe City that enable the solution to come together is the importance of the command and control center. And here you need to have an open approach towards this command and control center so that you can plug in the ecosystem of partners to actually have end-to-end value. The key elements of this command and control center includes things like cloud technology, communication, surveillance, reconnaissance, and for example, things like intelligence, which is done through big data and machine learning. But we need to go beyond that. Many of you are probably familiar with the concept of cloud services. We can extend these cloud services to smart and safe city. And we have this concept known as the XaaS model, or anything as a service model, but we apply this to the smart city concept. So what does this really enable? This enables both governments, telecom organizations to actually offer the safe city services in a flexible model towards the citizens or the ecosystem of partners, thus enabling them to generate new revenues and new applications in a more flexible way. Why is this important? Because when we look today at the smart city, one of the key elements is actually the value that is bringing. And people, what they expect when you bring this value is they want a complete ecosystem or an end-to-end value in those services. So when we look at deploying these services, we need to look at the elements of the business model in which these services are actually being delivered to the citizens. So in the left-hand side, we have non-profitable services. Government are non-profit organizations. Their objective is to maximize the number of services that deliver to you with a given annual budget. But governments today are actually being forced towards the right-hand side. If you look at Saudi Arabia, just to name a few countries in the region, there's a lot of ongoing what are called private and public partnership projects in which the governments are being asked to find the right business partners to enable us to monetize the value of the data that the government is collecting. So I see here a lot of business opportunity in this area as we move towards the right-hand side. So we have semi-profitable services where kind of a shared responsibility, and we're moving more and more towards this payable services, pay-as-you-use services. And I think you're going to see this in a lot of whole new generation of services that, for example, are being provided in regional governments like it's being done here in Dubai. So a lot of service fees are going to be introduced with the specific citizen services that are actually being offered. So when we put all this together, some key elements is obviously the command and control center. But I do think that, for example, the telco providers, and here we're talking about Duet, Salat, and others, or Zain, depending on the countries, actually can play an extremely important role. And they play an important role because they are actually able to provide two key services. One is the capability of providing the end-to-end connectivity, and the other one is the capability to provide the cloud data centers, which has the capacity to store this information and offer it in a useful information and a useful application towards the end user. So if they successfully establish this ecosystem of partners, they enable the new generation of these services. So where is this actually being done in a practical and usable way? I'll try to highlight 3 or 4 examples. If we look at North America, we have a case where AT&T has actually driven this smart city strategy by again establishing an ecosystem of partnerships that address several areas, including things like waste management, energy, parking, traffic, and social services as well. The Smart City Network Operations Center established itself as an ecosystem of partners to deliver services to the user via specific city organizations. In China, because the problems are much larger because of the density and the population that needs to be served, we have a case of KT, which was one of the large provinces in which 52 smart city projects across 39 municipalities are being carried out. And this is a phased approach. You don't implement the end-to-end from day one. So phase 1 was about providing the infrastructure for development. Phase 2 is about education and private services. And phase 3 expanded into much global services as well as even port and sea areas as well. As you know, China is a major exporter, so for example, port facilities. Again, from China, some more innovation. And here the innovation is really to offer these safe city concept, but as a service. And they have the capability of offering things like cloud services, but in the form of government services via smart city concept. We have actually tried things like this similar in the region via the telco operators. As you know, the ministries of interior of several countries have actually mandated that even small and medium-sized organizations must actually capture historical data of their CCTV systems and preserve this data for periods of 90 days or greater. So this obviously drives a new facility for providing these services in an efficient way. What is this at the end of the day? It's an efficient storage solution that will enable on one side to provide to these businesses historical and alerting data if somebody is trying to penetrate their businesses, but at the same time, this massive storage information can enable a whole new generation of analytics provided to things like the Ministry of Interior, because against this same data, you can conduct order searches, visual face searches, license plate recognition, just to actually name a few. From Africa, the example I mentioned a little bit earlier is the case of Safe City for Kenya, with Safaricom, in which it helped actually substantially reduce the crime rate in the country. I did have the chance to visit Kenya on a regular basis for the last 5 years, and I think that you have seen quite a big change in the safety associated with this particular city. We have another example that I did not put up, but it's also quite popular, is what we have done in Pakistan, in Islamabad, a very similar case as well. Now for architecture, what I'm really trying to highlight is that if you develop the right architecture within the infrastructure, you can have an open-ended solution that you can start to plug in all your ecosystem of partners. The way we have driven a practical architecture includes what we call a 1-2-3 or 2-1-3 network, depending on how you see it. At the bottom, we have a highly efficient communication network to actually address the capacity requirements of smart and safe city. A high capacity network, especially from the backbone perspective, based on fiber and wireless technologies, but complemented by an IoT network. And we've seen a lot of evolution in that, especially in the usage of things like 5G technology, or using things like narrowband IoT, which greatly simplifies how IoT devices data gets captured. So instead of having a lot of intermediate gateways, the IoT devices will be able to talk directly to the cellular tower, thus enabling or disintermediating or simplifying the architecture of the entire network. A highly comprehensive cloud platform to address the storage and the processing, and then 3 primary platforms, one for the command and control center, one to address the big data, and the third one to enable the services of ecosystem of partners. And on the high end, we have basically the government organizations or third-party service organizations dealing directly with the citizen. So when we put all this together, we have a complete end-to-end solution that involves comprehensive ICT infrastructure, focused on the value of data, enabling a new generation of applications to the driving of an ecosystem of partners. And at the end of the day, this is where the end-to-end solution meets the 2020 deadline. In the case of Safe City, the best example sometimes is by seeing a video. So what I do is I have a video, so I hope we don't experience the same technical difficulties as before, so I'll try to play the video as we move forward. Can you dim the lights for a second?
Were fired at 9 o'clock this morning. It's international competition. site?
10 minutes, sir.
We're out of time. Get the bomb disposal expert on the line with us.
Yes, sir.
We must disarm the bomb now. The expert will guide you over the phone. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's do it. Tell all the departments involved to activate the contingency plan. Don't forget to tell the mayor.
It's a plastic bomb.
The merger is swift.
Be careful, young man. Face it professionally.
Look at this terrorist now. Yes. Good. Okay, I need more information on this guy. Good to go. Good to meet. And what town's driving?
Okay, guys. One more step. Command center. Bomb has been disabled.
Sir, we located the suspect's car. Monitor that vehicle's movements.
What's the situation now?
The bomb's been cleared. The suspect in this car has been located. The situation's under our control.
There's something wrong here. Sir, we have a problem. The suspect went to the finish line at 3 a.m. He was there for 30 minutes.
Must be another bomb.
Officers 4152 and 4153 go to the bridge at the end of the South Wilson Street immediately. Check the electric box on bridge support.
It's a cell phone triggered bomb that can also be manually detonated. I suggest we shield the phone signal first and then disable the bomb.
I've located the suspect's vehicle. It's heading towards the location of the second bomb.
Notify all units to arrest the suspect on site and move the signal interference vehicle.
Okay, I thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. Although the video might be a little bit of an over-dramatization of what it can actually happen, all the technologies that you see today are not, they are real technologies that are available, they're in production and are actually being used exactly as you see them. Nothing more, nothing less. So this is reality today as it exists. License plate recognition, face recognition, image enhancements, 4G, video conference directly to the field, independent mobile networks being able to talk to each other without the presence of the cellular tower, and so on. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.